Hello, everyone out there. This is Through the Ropes with Drew, Paris, and Jake. We're with a very special guest today. We have Terrill Bracken, owner of Fusion Fight League. Terrill, how we feeling today?
I'm good. So when you say special, you say very special. What kind of special are we talking about? Because like there's a lot of different definitions, and I kind of feel it's more like the short bus kind of special.
It depends on who we ask.
Yeah.
Very much. Well, I'm going with the short bus. That's how I feel today.
Well, I just feel special to be here and to have a guest. This is officially our first guest. This is our first episode, so it's kind of special in that sense. And every person we get in here is an awesome person, but you're kind of like the man. You're the one who brings us the entertainment. You get these fighters here. You're the one who gets them a shot. So to me, it's a little bit more, the ante is up a little bit, if you will.
I appreciate that a lot, and it's an honor to be your inaugural podcast, to be the first guy up. So thank you very much for that privilege.
Yeah,
That
we do
means a lot
appreciate
to
you,
me.
Terrill. Yeah.
So yeah, do you want to just kind of break it down for the guests a little bit and let us know kind of, where did you come from? You're from the Billings area. How did you get into fighting? Your past, you were a police officer, I know. Do you want to kind of just dig in a little bit to...
Yeah, I can give you the shorter version, then we can dig in deeper on anything you guys want to talk about. So I was a gymnast all through school, through junior high and high school, back when they had, I was an all-arounder. And when I graduated from high school, I couldn't do gymnastics anymore because of the job that I got. So I started martial arts when I was 18 years old because the schedule worked better for me, and I wanted that outlet and had always been interested in martial arts. So I started training in traditional taekwondo, and eventually my instructor also taught judo, so I started doing judo. And after I got my black belt, there was opportunity to start teaching out in the Heights. So I started a martial arts school in the Heights, and this would have been like 1990, 91, right in there. And I owned and operated a martial arts school in the Billings Heights for 20 years. While we were there, obviously the UFC took off, and it really revolutionized how martial arts worked, and I loved it. I remember watching the first UFC, and I was shocked and horrified, and also it was like, oh, that is the coolest thing ever, because it was real. It was like, this is what really happens. And so I had a fair amount of grappling experience at that point because of doing judo, but just different rule set, because you're wearing a gi and you turn over to avoid the pin, but there is chokes, there is arm bars, all the foot sweeps and throws. But when the Gracies introduced Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I was amazed by that. So there were a few people in Montana. As things progressed, there were a few people in Montana that were doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu like in their garage and things like that, but there were no official programs in any of the martial arts schools. We had an opportunity to bring a Silvio Bearing black belt, Peter Iacovacci. We brought him to the school. He moved over to Billings and started teaching us Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And from there, it took off. So yeah, we kind of got that going. And then from our program, we started bringing on board affiliate schools. So I think Brian Dietz was the first affiliate to come on board as a Bearing Jiu-Jitsu affiliate outside of our school. And it spread to Kevin Moore in Kalispell and Matt Powers in Missoula, and just kind of went from there. And yeah, so that was kind of the history of it. And then I started working in law enforcement, and I'd been teaching law enforcement officers. And the onset of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu just revolutionized women's self-defense and law enforcement self-defense. Mm-hmm. So I was able to teach, ground defense to officers that had no experience in that area. And we worked in weapon retention with that. And then through working with the officers, and I'd always been interested in law enforcement. I had family that were law enforcement officers. So from there, I became a reserve officer. My school was a full-time thing for sure. We had about 150 students. And Wow. It was a big program. But I could go be a reserve officer, and eventually I just started liking it so much. And after 20 years, I really did get kind of burnt out on teaching. It was time for me to make a change. And during this whole time, we were putting on fights too. So I was teaching in school, running fights here and there, and working law enforcement. And so at that time, I sold the school and sold it to Will Grundhauser, so the Grindhouse.
Yes. Okay.
Yep. Will was one of my students, And the agreement was I was going to take the fights to the next level, and he was going to take the gym to the next level, and he definitely did that. So and continued to work in law enforcement for a while, and then about 3 years ago, I left law enforcement and decided I wanted to pursue this full time. We went from a 1-state promotion to a 4-state promotion, and it's been interesting times since COVID. Everything has changed post COVID for putting on fights. Yeah. But yeah, so that's what brings us to where we are today. Now I'm a full-time fight promoter and teach a little self-defense here and there.
That's awesome. That's a lot to unravel there. I'll ask one thing.
I kind of threw all that.
And then I just am interested. There's just so much cool stuff there. I did not know that much history about you, so that was awesome. Gymnastics. So were you like rings, beam, poles, or you said you were all arounder?
Yeah, I was an all rounder. That's all the events. I did all of the events. My senior year, I was not very naturally talented. I was kind of the guy that really had to work at it. But my senior year, I took 3rd in state, and that was So,
dang. So did you find an easy transition from the gym? Not easy transition, but being with as flexible as you were and able to move as you were, transitioning from gymnastics to
absolutely.
You said jujitsu.
Well, taekwondo. Taekwondo is what and very dynamic kicking art. Now, the taekwondo that we were doing back then significantly different than some of the taekwondo that you see here. I mean, there's still some high level taekwondo schools, very competitive on the national scene. But we're talking Olympic level, full contact taekwondo, win by knockout, trembling shock. You don't get a point unless there's trembling shock.
That'd be nice to watch.
And some extremely good competitors that came out of Montana, like Steve Rosbarsky. He is a beast.
Well, I trained with Moranti when I first came in here.
Scott
That was the only gym in town. Was Scott put an MMA program on after Taekwondo? And you said Kevin Moore. Kevin Moore was the first seminar I ever went to with him, and so I still remember that, like the stuff he's saying. I quoted him the other day actually from that seminar.
Yeah,
it was just kind of funny.
Yeah. It was it a jiu-jitsu seminar or
he came in just like a general like martial arts thing, came down to Scott's gym, and then we just went down, and I just don't remember like the focus, and like he was talking about a stoplight, and like really good guys can focus and see the little lights, the LED lights. And that's what I was telling my girlfriend. I can still see the LED lights, and I'm good at predicting when it's going to go from red to green. I'm good at predicting that timing, and that's one thing that he taught me in like 2008, and that sticks with me today. So just it's funny you mentioned that name, and that's like the succession through.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of crazy. It's definitely a small world,
Yeah.
But Montana, it just kind of goes to show that Montana has always turned out very high level martial art competitors. When Taekwondo was added to the Olympics, the Olympic team captain Jadis Warwick was from Montana.
Wow, that's crazy.
And he took a bronze medal in the Olympics. So yeah, it was just very, very high level martial artists that have always come out of here. So. Yeah.
There's not much to do in Montana if you don't want to be outside. So sometimes we just hit each other. It's fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and you were saying you opened your gym in the 90s. That had to be, I don't know necessarily if you want to say scary, because like karate and everything like that, because of Bruce Lee, I felt like in America had taken that jump in the late 70s, 80s. But like UFC, I mean, you said you opened that in 1990. That hadn't really, UFC was in 92 or 91.
Yeah.
So what was that like for you being a new business owner in an area, especially in Montana, small population? What was that like for you taking that step towards something that was kind of
that you believe in
for you, that you believed in?
I loved it. I fell in love with martial arts right off the bat. I loved doing all of it, the weapons and the board breaking and all of that kind of stuff. It was forms, kata, and all the sparring, just everything. It was a lot of fun, and but it was everything was changing so fast. The analogy that I like to use, what the UFC did for martial arts is like, so our everyday driver cars, a lot of that technology in our everyday cars comes from the racetrack. When you think about things like crumple zones and anti-lock brakes and all those things, that's all racetrack technology. And that's what the UFC did for martial arts. It was like, I mean,
Expose the truth.
yeah. And eventually it caused a lot of problems between me and my instructor. My instructor, Mr. Park, was a full-blooded Korean, and when I started training with him, he'd only been in the United States for like 4 or 5 years.
Kind of hard to
still
understand.
very broken English, very hardcore. He was very hardcore. And but also the traditional martial art world was unwilling to change. They did not want to adapt. And there were several old school instructors in Billings, and they did not want to adapt at all. So
I've heard some stories of like dojo storming back in the day from some of the boys in Missoula in that area.
Yeah.
Just like showing the flyers from the early 90s from between the gyms. Like, if your stuff's real, then let's go. And like, this is before the UFC, or like, this has always been a thing.
Yeah. Well, it's so when I started doing MMA, and I think we were the second program in the. Brian was the first MMA class in Montana. I was the second to hold MMA classes in our school. Yeah. And so, with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA happening and evolving like that, and I just was realizing that, hey, some of this there's some great aspects to this that translate well, but there's a lot of this that just does not work for practical self-defense. It is classical nonsense. It's great for an art form, but like the chamber hand, any martial art style that uses a chamber hand, that is counterproductive for anything practical self-defense wise. So
as long as we agree not to punch each other in the face, this will work fine for me.
Right.
Okay.
Playtime
With
scenarios.
Taekwondo, that was so weird too, because I can kick you in the head and knock you out, but I can't punch you in the head and knock you out. So
like
there was that. I can punch you in the body as hard as I want, but I cannot punch you in the face.
They're like, the kick to the head looks too good. We can't deny that one. But,
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, you
that was
see
always
these
a
guys
lot of
that
fun.
don't get back up. Like the knockouts are scary when somebody gets knocked out in general. It doesn't matter if it's a punch or a kick. Those kicks are dramatic. They do a double spin, then kick them. Like, are you kidding me? That guy's in the next dimension.
My buddy's brother growing up both of his brothers were into Taekwondo, and those kids were the older brother was really tough. He was a wrestler and stuff. And we used to actually take what they called the kendo sticks, and we'd like sit outside and beat each other and see who could take the worst whomping from them and dumb stuff. That was our martial arts back then.
It was really fun too, because coming from my gymnastics background, this kind of goes to what you were saying before. The gymnastics definitely helped me with the flexibility and things like that. Plus, I was able to do really fun demonstrations. One tournament, we did a group of us. We did a demonstration, and my part in it was I did a board break where two guys were standing up on a chair and holding a board, and I did a backflip break.
What?
And that was just fun, because I used to be able to do that. I could do a standing backflip right up until.
I was just saying, let's move some cameras out.
I can't anymore. About 10 years ago, I blew out my Achilles and had an Achilles repair. So
you just don't have that explosiveness anymore.
I don't even want to chance it. It's like I'd probably break a hip.
Right. I was like, let's get this man some TRT right now. He can do a backflip.
I can do a backflip if I'm laying on the ground and roll. That.
And it's funny that you that gymnastics. For the last year, I've been trying to figure out what body style I want in the gym. And I've kind of my warm-ups are a lot of gymnastic warm-ups. And it's played into right now while I'm injured, being able to stand back up, being able to move as well as I can. It all comes from these gymnastic and wrestling warm-ups that I do at the gym for like 15, 20 minutes at least.
Well, when people talk about physical fitness, it is more than just strength and cardio. It is flexibility and mobility. Those things are so important, and balance and coordination.
Especially over 30.
Oh, yeah.
And as you get older, it just gets more and more important.
Oh, yeah.
I got roasted when we were like 20. It was like 2:00 in the morning. We were all drunk, and we were just talking about what we thought some of the most competitive sports overall was. And I said, to me personally, I thought like wrestling, hockey, just because, hockey, they do a lot of changes, but I threw out gymnastics, and these guys, obviously it's basketball, football, and, it's tough sports. I was like, if you think about the dude that does like the beam, he's like spinning on his hands for like up to it, like straight, just upper arm strength, or the rings and stuff like that. Just the overall core strength, body strength, cardio, like all of it. it's on a whole different level. I feel like.
Yeah, I think two of the most demanding sports out there is definitely gymnastics and wrestling.
Yeah.
And they just because
Nothing
you've
built
got
you like
for the
wrestling.
most part, there's a lot of constant resistance and things like that. So yeah, so when
You guys are wrong, just so you know. I told you. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean that's not to take anything away from any of this.
Yeah,
There's a lot
they're
of
all
very
tough.
demanding stuff out there, but yeah, it's so when MMA came on the scene and I started to realize these things about traditional martial arts, I really kind of became the black sheep when I brought Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu over. I was pretty well shunned by the other martial arts schools, and that was not real popular with the traditional instructors.
And that has like I know you do your own thing, and that was kind of like the whole thing, but that did kind of have to hurt a little bit too, because you knew these guys.
Yeah, well, I Mr. Park being my instructor for so long, he was like a second father figure to me, and I taught my school under him for so long, and yeah, it was really, really difficult when we parted ways. Yeah. So, but I mean, things evolve. You have to evolve. And really, I'm not to. It is kind of a comparison, but not to say I'm on the level of Bruce Lee in any stretch of the imagination. But that's what he went through too when he started his own martial arts system of blending things together. You know, he really, in a lot of ways,
and when he taught it to Americans, that's when the traditional Chinese got really mad at him. That's the whole story.
But if you think about it, he was really one of the first mixed martial artists.
That's why he wore the yellow suit, the style of no style.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, you watch him throw an armbar on Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. In which movie was that?
That was his last one. Yeah, that's when he busts up.
Enter the Dragon.
Yeah.
I mean, he puts an armbar on. It's like So I mean, he was even thinking about grappling. So
those are some good movies. Man. Big Boss and a couple of those other ones.
Even that one he got stabbed with the thing. He threw the dude threw the armbar on him and he bit his leg to get out of it. I was like, sorry, that's like that was the white guy. I think.
Yeah. One of my favorite books is the Tao of Jeet Kune Do. It's just there's so much good stuff in there.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. And sometimes it sucks to have to be, if you will, like a trailblazer. But sometimes if you kind of seen the writing on the wall and could see the vision in the future, so it sounds like you were smart enough to get ahead and change with the times rather than go against, instead of fighting against the water, you went with it a little bit.
Definitely tried to. It just because it made sense.
Right.
And working with law enforcement officers and things like that,
and
you're working with people
stuff.
who they need it and they need it to work. So yeah, it definitely and worked with some military personnel and things like that. Yeah. So that was always a lot of fun.
And I think that's cool. Thank you for your service with the community and working with law enforcement. I mean, and that's a very crucial thing, to teach these dudes basic self-defense, these men and women, I should say, basic self-defense and, how to handle those scenarios without maybe, without things going awry, if you will.
So I preach it every time that every law enforcement officer needs to be in jiu-jitsu because that'll save a life. That'll save everyone's life. So if the officer can grab the suspect and make him feel like, I've been grabbed by a guy who's really good at jiu-jitsu. You know instantly when that guy touches you that you're not getting away.
That he's the man and you're not.
Yeah, dude. And he can fold you up. And then it's escalation of force. They don't have to pull out the baton. They don't have to tase. They don't have to go to the gun.
Yep. Well, and it's actually, and there's two sides to it. They can more effectively and more safely do their job, what they need to do, and but also we also had to really work with them, teaching them. Okay, now because there are people that are training in this. You need to learn how to fight off a choke. You need to learn how to fight, not just give your arm for an arm bar, things like that, and just teaching them positional awareness and hold position before submission. But that all plays true. But then with cops, you're also throwing in, like I said before, that weapon retention because everything changes when you got that gun on your
They're
hip.
reaching for that gun. Now what do I do?
When I can only imagine, like we were talking last night, the fights, when you go to these fights, people are amped up and stuff. I can only imagine what it was like post UFC just coming out. Like every dude is probably wanting to go out there, and train and be Billy BA. You know what I mean?
Well, they're training in jail. They were watching UFCs and doing those things, practicing it while they were in jail. So it's like
we might have to try and keep up with this a little bit.
You kind of have to assume that everyone's had about 3 to 4 months of training at least.
Yeah,
that's like of your general population just from watching the UFC or anything else. They know what an armbar is. They know what a rear naked choke is. which is the easiest one to get in. Like, if they give you the neck, so it's just you got to know.
The thing that I like about it is the rules apply all the way across the board, whether it's women's self-defense, law enforcement, MMA. It's always knowing the dominant positions, knowing how to keep the dominant positions, learning to escape the negative positions, and really that's watch. I have literally gotten to watch so many fights between judging and refereeing for as long as I did that for a long time, and then putting on fights, and I've seen so many fights, and it's really easy to tell what stuff wins a fight and what stuff loses a fight. And it's amazing to me. I wish I could spend time with fighters and get them or convince fighters to spend more time learning how to escape negative positions,
how to get back to your feet.
How many people just don't have a mount escape, or how many people, even more frustrating, how many people don't know how to pass guard? It's like they just want to stay in the guard and keep pass guard.
That was at the fight. One of the guys was in there, and his corner was telling him, "Keep your pressure." And so he just kept stacking him. And I'm like, "No, you need a posture so you can throw some bombs."
Yep.
And then you have him against the fence, posture up, swing. You got 10 seconds. What are you doing? Just stacking this guy.
Yep. When you're postured up in the guard and you're keeping their back on the mat, that gives you the space that you need to be able to hit to loosen them up. But also at the same time, you're just so much more safe against getting armbarred, getting choked,
or swept, especially when you're pressuring. Like, okay, pressure me. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. The best way to get out of a triangle is to posture up out of it. That's the best way. But
it sucks, but you have to do it.
And it does kind of suck. If you don't know to just take their hand when they're pulling the back of your head and do this real quick and pop your head up, like this is very simple things. Or like you're saying, how to pass guard, or if someone is posturing up, how many people don't even know to like hip up and break their posture? So now I have control.
Yep.
I don't know.
But in Montana, there's a lot of people that are independent. Not everybody has access to having good MMA gyms. Not everybody can afford it. It's gotten a whole lot more expensive to train martial arts these days, but it's kind of gotten more expensive to do everything these days.
Yeah, no comment.
You can't get nothing for free no more.
Between 15 to 25% more.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I kind of wanted to say is, let's jump forward a little bit now to these fights and what it takes kind of for you guys to put something like this on. I mean, it's a whole production. I mean, people, they see you come in and you're looking sharp as usual in the ring, you're announcing we're doing the fight for a cause, but it's like, what really comes together? I mean, I'm sure there's a million things you don't want to go into all of it, but what does it really take to like bring a production? I mean, even like an 8-fight card like we had, which is not, it's not like 8 fights is nothing.
And more particular on that same note is like in the week lining up, even we can go back in time to like when you're setting your seasonal schedule, because you do like 3-4 months, something like that. You put
We're trying to get our
whole year.
We're trying to get our whole year scheduled out so that we can plan ahead and know. Yeah, it's very, very clearly Fusion Fight League, and it's been a bit now. We are going through some significant growing pains because we're not a small show anymore.
Nope.
But yet we don't have the financial abilities of a large show. We've got a smaller population here, and I've always had champagne taste on a beer budget. I'm constantly pushing to try and make things better and better and better, rolling our profits back in to grow what we do. There is a lot of moving parts, especially when you start doing live stream, all the video production and everything like that. Yeah. But there's so many different aspects of it. There's the setup and teardown. There's the fight for a cause benefit. There's all the matchmaking that goes on, all of the marketing that goes on, the video production and putting together the overall production of the show. There's coordinating all of the staff members. There's all the logistics, flying people in, setting up hotels, it just the list goes on and on and on. From the outside, it looks like it'd be easy to throw up a cage and get some fighters and let's have some fights. No. And now going a step further, having a state athletic commission, bringing a state athletic commission over to give us that third party oversight.
That's Eric.
I really appreciate those guys.
It was Eric last time.
Okay.
It's Nick Meeker is the state athletic commissioner for Wyoming, and he is a great guy to work with. And usually Will Tenaccio is our guy that comes over.
That's the guy with the beard.
Yep,
right?
the guy with the beard.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
when he's not available, Eric Eric comes over, and Eric's worked with large promotions, UFC, and he's got quite the background. But
I'd like to have him on. I had a chance to chat with him a little bit up in Havre, and that guy seems very interesting for one, and then we had a quick talk just about some stuff, and it'd be fun to chat with him.
Yeah, it's just nice to see that commission in there, just because now I know these fighters are, number one, just a lot safer. When I fought originally in like 2006, the guy greased up. I fought on an Indian reservation. I touched him. I said, God, he smells funny. He's real greasy. Not saying that's why he won. He was better than me, but that's
no,
no, he was cheating. That's why. But he was just headbutting me and everything. But you fought in 2006 on an Indian reservation. You get what you get. Open weight tournament, because I thought it was tough, but I fought to a decision. So
Drew, it's our first episode. Don't get us canceled. It is Native American or Indigenous.
Yeah. Oh
people,
yeah.
We're not trying to get canceled right off the jump, please.
Crow Fair 2006 Res Brawl.
That's awesome, dude.
But so now to
Ernie Littlebird was the promoter of that. Yeah.
Wow.
Did you ref that?
I probably did.
And I was talking about, I think you remember that. I think I vaguely remember you, but I had a concussion when I left, so I don't really know.
I'm pretty sure it was me. Yeah.
I kicked that guy in the face in the first round and broke my foot. I still have a calcium deposit on my Martatusals from that.
And Resbrawl, what an awesome name.
I know. And it was in a giant teepee. But that's how I knew I had a face, because
I made it.
I'm in this teepee. I'm the only Caucasian man on the card, and I had that entire, it wasn't giant sweat lodge. I had all those people chanting my name.
That's awesome.
The underdog. They said, come on, you can do it. But I just didn't. That guy was Oklahoma Sooners wrestling and then a silver glove boxer. I didn't even need to be in the same, if we were practicing in a gym, I needed to be in the other group.
Actually, you're over there.
But looking back, and I should have been training, but it's 2006. You found who you could train with, where you could train with. You found the 5 toughest dudes, and probably 3 of them showed up every week, and it's a rotating 3.
Well, before, we always tried to run things as if we were sanctioned, as if there was a state athletic commission, but it's not the same. It is just not the same. It's difficult. So when you have the state athletic commission, for people that don't know, the things that they are supplying is that they're making sure that our matchups are safe. They look over all of our matchups. They make sure all the fighters have their blood work done. They make sure I have my insurance in place. They make sure that our medical staff is good quality. They make sure our judges and referees are qualified to do their job. Those lists just go on and on of the things that they do. It's third-party oversight. And there's sometimes it's like, I want something that they don't want. It's like, I feel like that matchup was really fair. And they're like, nope, we're not going to allow it. It's like, okay. And you just have to, they are the final authority.
Oh, so you don't even get to argue your point and be like, hey, but
they are really good to hear. They will hear things out, but ultimately, if they don't want to do it, it's
their word goes.
Recently, it's been a difficulty of having, 15 and 16-year-olds compete. That's been an issue. 17, they're a little bit more flexible, but really the rule is 18. But we know that these kids we've got some examples of some 15-year-olds that train very hard, and they're very physically able and capable. I mean, these guys are.
You want to keep that CTE to a minimum, and they don't understand. Neurologically, you'll never recover from what you have done. I had so many gym wars that have knocked me loopy, and that's why the girls told me I couldn't fight anymore. Same thing. It's like, you don't recover neurologically. Someone's going to hit you really hard when you're 26 now, because you've been doing this 10 years and have all these gym wars and plus 10, 15 fights. Mm-hmm. They just don't understand that. So I can understand, but they also are killers. They grow up on the mats. Like Shea O'Neill's kid lives at the gym. Yeah. Can you imagine that? And he's already throwing combos. He was showing me in the back, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And every kid now is going to be that.
Yeah. There's
top level or just live it.
And just, you have these people like Sean O'Malley, especially for people in Montana, where it's just like, Montana doesn't have a lot of sports stars between him and Kai Stewart, and then a couple, old school football players and stuff like that. There's not a bunch for these kids to really, so it's just like those are the guys right now.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah, there's some great role models for them to.
I mean,
look up
Tommy
to right
McMillan.
now.
I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah. It's pretty great. Well, and then we saw Marnik Man.
Gage. I mean, Cupcake.
Poor Gage, man. He was going to have that fight for was that Cage Fury or something like that, and he tore his hand up.
Yeah.
Oh, he announced that.
Oh, oops.
Yeah.
maybe by Wednesday he will have.
Yeah.
Well, he was
maybe edit that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. He told me he didn't.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought he posted it on his social.
We'd have to look, but either way.
Yeah. No, but great fighters that have come out of Montana: Hunter Azure, Marnik Man, and we had one, Ariel O'Neill, who was in our cage last night with Shay. There's a women's pioneer for Montana right there. I mean, she paved the way for a lot of people. So
yeah, she was on that first Women's Contenders, right? Or was it
Ultimate Fighter?
Ultimate Fighter, yeah. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So now as we're kind of like talking about commissions and rules and things like that, we obviously had a lot of really good fights. Like I was saying earlier, some really on my IG stuff, we had some really good technical fights. I feel like sometimes you see some quick knockouts, and that's not from lack of experience or anything, but it was kind of fun last night to see some really good grappling and stuff like that. We did have a little bit of a controversy with the JoJo fight. You kind of want to, for the everyday fan who is sitting at home and may not quite understand what took place with that knee, can you kind of break down what happened first, and then what you saw, and then what you kind of feel
that was a tough one. That was really, really tough one. It was, looking at the replay, it was absolutely unintentional. Yeah, it was just bad timing, unfortunate. I know that, so Braden's foot, if you look at it, his back foot was sliding out, and it dropped his level down right as JoJo was throwing the knee. And it was just an unfortunate timing thing. However, we got that call wrong. We got that call wrong, and they knew it. The referees knew it directly afterwards. But also at the same time, even having the commission, it's that should have been handled differently. I've already been on the phone with the commission about it, and they're going to review that, and there's very likely going to be a change made as a result of that, because that's one great thing. We make a mistake, we get it wrong, we can go back and we can fix it, and we will see that fight again. They both want that fight again, and I mean, as Braden last night was like, "Yep, I absolutely want that fight," and it was going to be an exciting fight. It just happened so early on in the first round. So yeah, those things happen. Human error. It just
no one's above it.
Nope.
Okay, and so do you have the rule set available to you that would dictate that? That'd be kind of cool, like, to explain it, because that was a knee in the first, an unintentional knee, and they rolled a victory for JoJo,
and it should not. Yeah. So what it's going to end up, I predict, and we'll know by the time this airs, but I predict that it's going to be either a no contest or a disqualification. It could be either one of those two things.
So with the Wyoming Commission, I know sometimes an inadvertent knee, because it was in the first round, it's no contest. But had that been later in the fight, do they still do it? Would they go to the judges' cards? Okay, yeah. So they do the same way. So because it was in the first round, it probably will be a no contest.
Well, that's what I was wondering, if they just went based off of kind of JoJo, from what I was witnessing and stuff, was definitely being the more dominant force. I mean, that guy did get a couple of shots on JoJo for sure. But I was just wondering, I was like, did they decide he won based off of just what he was doing in the fight? Or and I'm just like me, I'm just a dude on the side who's privileged to watch this.
No, it was a wrong call. And, Dave is an awesome referee. And he realized it right afterwards. But, it's just, we roll with it. We move forward. We fix it. That's part of the deal.
And they'll run it back again. I hope it's a non-contest and we run it back and we get another exciting fight from him.
Yeah.
I bet you Braden comes in there knowing what JoJo throws now. Yeah, because JoJo throws mean power. I could feel that from ringside.
I'm telling you, anybody coming out of Red Hawk Academy, anybody and so we had the Sean O'Malley fight. It didn't go Sean's way. It's interesting to see all the stuff on the internet, and there's been people that have been criticized that it was bad coaching and everything like that, and that Sean needs a new coach. I'm like, are you kidding me?
I just read that today, and I was like,
Tim's the one that built that monster. I mean, he's been with him from day one. I mean, obviously Sean has always been extremely talented,
and he works hard,
and he is very hard work ethic. Tommy McMillan is another one. I think Tommy has one of the best work ethics of any fighter I've ever seen. That is one thing I have to just say about him. All through COVID, couldn't fight. What did he do? He trained and trained and trained.
Well, and he lived on the mats too. He was a little mat rat because Joe and I used to train, and I've known Tommy since he was little.
3-time state champion wrestler. Yeah,
and when we had MMA practice, he was at MMA practice with us, fighting the toughest guys in town. He went on to a bigger town and fought tougher guys in bigger towns.
Yeah, he knew at a very early age what he was going to do, and he is going to definitely accomplish that. There's no doubt about that.
I feel it.
Yeah, but those guys at Red Hawk, Tim, in my opinion, is one of the, if not one of the greatest minds in coaching.
He's a chill dude.
And the thing with Tim is like, if you get Tim's loyalty, Tim will give, and he feels you're putting in, he'll put that energy back into you, and he'll help build you, and he cares about you. But that's what makes him a good coach.
But I think it's crazy, like you're talking about people saying that, maybe people, because I would watch I usually watch those kind of fights with a big group of people, and just, it's always funny listening to people talk, and it's like, how did we go from just a couple months ago, we had Tim, people were blowing up social media, he's up for coach of the year. I don't know if he ended up winning that or what the deal was, but it was like, how did so many people like you're saying, like just so quickly turn, and people were like, oh, well, look at how he's coaching Sean right now. And I was like, dude, have you ever seen him yelling like, you need to get this done? It's like, they always keep shit on the level, or stuff on the level. They always, they keep it pretty. And I just, even when I've watched him coaching, and here, it's like, he's always just normally talking to them, kind of walking them through what they need to do, especially if obviously he's shouting if they're a little further away, but he's always just kind of just normally conversating with his fighters.
Well, yeah, and I think from what I saw, to me, you could see very naturally Sean was starting to get a little bit frustrated. You could see it, that he was realizing that, it wasn't exactly where he wanted it to be. He was really concerned about the takedown. He's looking for his shot, but the worst thing that can happen is for a fighter to start to panic and get over anxious and start feeling desperate. That's when you make mistakes. So what I saw was that Tim was keeping his fighter calm, cool, and collected, because Sean just knew he just needed that one shot.
That's all he kept telling him.
Yep. So just stay calm, look for your shot, look for your opportunity. It's going to happen, and that's right up till the end.
Yeah,
because that fight could have ended.
Right.
Sean can turn people off like a light switch, but it is hard to throw that shot when you're constantly defending the takedown.
Yeah. Well, and that guy just has, his center of gravity is so much lower than Sean's, so he can hit that double really quick. Yeah, and he hides it behind that right hand. I've been hit by a right hand like that a bunch of times, because you go to defend that takedown. Now you go to defend the punch, and he hits you with the takedown.
Rob's timing was just really insane. Spot on. Well, I mean, let's face it, these guys are all very, very high level fighters.
Yeah, top of the list.
I got to talk to Sean a little bit yesterday, and I mean, Sean was, he's just so laid back, and his vibe was just so, he's doing really well. And I asked him, the question that I asked him was, at this stage of the game, is it really stressful at this stage, or is it more fun? He says he just said it was fun. He's having so much fun fighting at this level, and he had such a positive attitude about that. He the fight didn't go his way. He thinks that it's going to lead to even bigger, greater things.
His Snapchat was hilarious, by the way. Post fight, those guys were killing it.
Him and Merab, the stuff that Merab's putting out too. It's just like those two. They're both having so much fun with this, going back and forth. And
the Merab videos were amazing.
Sean those guys were brutal on Merab, leading up to the fight. Now Merab's kind of coming back and having his fun, and it's fun to see that stuff. It's all in good spirits. Yeah, the doll.
That's got to be hard, dude, when you are like literally on a world stage, and obviously I'm sure he feels like maybe he let himself down or whatever, but it's like then you got all of this outside. I mean, I know everyone says that they don't care about that, and they, the greats will rise above that. But it's really tough. Like I said, just to hear a lot of Montanans kind of go about how they did. It's like, man, you guys were just jocking them so hard a couple weeks ago. And,
I hate fair weather fans.
Yeah.
It's, I hate fair weather fans. It's
Well, those guys have built such I feel like a really cool culture, and that goes back to like how Tim was coaching. They're such laid back guys where it's like that. I feel like that's almost not their style to be like, "What are you doing?
Yep.
You need to do this." So.
Yeah, I think that would have thrown Sean into a panic.
Yeah.
It's like, it's
He was bringing him back down to where he needed to be in that moment. So
yep.
And again, you got to know your fighter. And so what works for Merab or some guy from whatever, like Matt Sarah screaming at him, it's like, that's not going to work.
Translate for
everyone. Not this guy who's like sits here and meditates every morning for 30 minutes. You know what I mean? You're not going to scream at him and get the response.
Well, and we talk about fighters that have come out of Montana. We can't forget about Tim. Fought for Bellator, fought on Fight Master. What a beast.
Tim, if in a different timeline where Tim didn't get those unlucky injuries, he's
right there too.
Yeah, he's got a championship. He's top 5. You know what I mean? Easily. But sometimes that's the game. Is you got to be lucky too. You got to be good. And
Tim is right where he wants to be. He's loving what he's doing. He is such a great coach.
Killing it. Inspired.
He's like a really good leader. You know what I mean?
Yep.
He's molding a lot of young men and creating, like I said, the culture that they're creating down there, and then helping to bring up.
I feel so fortunate that we're getting a chance to help develop his guys, give his guys a stage to compete on.
Yeah.
And it's so we're having to bring in other fighters to fight on that level. Not that Montana doesn't have good fighters, but we're talking about guys that's all they do. Trips that I made over to Vegas to get to know the gyms and meet some of the people over there. I going to Extreme Couture and going to Syndicate and all the different gyms. It was amazing because as I went around, I'd go to like 4 different gyms, and very often at the different times I would see some of the same people, because they were going everywhere they could, and they're training 3-4 times a day at different gyms. So it was
a little much at that point, though.
Those guys they live it, they eat it, they breathe it, they sleep it. Most of them, it is all they do. That's all they do. That's their job. So it's hard here in Montana. It's hard to sustain that for a pro fighter.
Yeah.
So that's what we were kind of talking about earlier before you got here. I mean, obviously we have some of the big ones that are already popping off, but who are like some of the young up and comers that we should be really looking at? Obviously JoJo and Ezra are 2 probably at the top.
Who are your big draws in state?
I like Ransom. And also, even though he's only had one fight, dude, I was sad that he was sick and wasn't able to fight yesterday.
Definitely. I was looking forward to that too. He'll definitely be back after wrestling season. That's one thing that makes it hard, is when these guys are in wrestling season, they are they're not doing MMA, so that takes a big chunk away. But they're developing skills to make them good fighters. There are really some great up and comers, and you've got. Matt over at the Dog Pound is turning them out. You've got Will at the Grindhouse turning out new talent. The Flow State Athletics, what a great evolution that has turned.
I know how that turned. Yeah. And I was there on the ground floor when it started all those years ago as ECMMA.
Yep.
And then it kind of evolved.
Wolfpack and
they always got dudes. I feel like and it's lucky that I feel like there's always 3 or 4 dudes on a card. I mean, no matter where you guys go, I feel like there's a couple at least from Flow State that are really.
There's so many names, and I don't want to leave anybody out. I'm terrible at that too.
That's all right, man.
But
we'll have time to talk
Brandon Hegstead, there's a guy. There's a guy that is definitely on the map.
He's one that
co-main in Missoula, right? On gauges, and
he armbarred or triangled,
and that blonde-haired kid too from the Dog Pound. He fought here at Seasons Beatings. I can't remember. He's like 24.
Matt's kid is
Connell Powers, and
it's not him. I can't remember.
Okay.
Anyways, it's not. Yeah, I've seen him fight twice, and he's just a dog. And then that Hegstead kid, dude, it was.
Yeah, he wants to be entertaining.
Yeah,
that Hegstead, and that's kind of the thing too. Is like you see like Merab, and that was like the thing between like the showman style and like your effective wrestling style, which has been there since like literally 93, 94, ever since. Well, I guess probably a little later. Once Matt Hughes and that kind of. When I say archetype of a fighter, where you're a really strong wrestler, You're really good. Does a really good grappler, a lot of pressure, an infinite gas tank. That guy exists at every level of MMA.
One thing that I would like to do, if I had more time, one of the things that I would really like to do is I don't have any desire to be a manager, but I would really like to put on classes or work with fighters to help them do everything from, teach them the do's and don'ts about social media and marketing themselves, and, helping them to develop their personas, and, just everything from their walkouts to if they get a chance to do an interview, do's and don'ts of an interview, how to just be, how to market themselves better, and then teach them about, hey, these are the elements of going and getting sponsorships, and just so many of those things I wished I could spend more time doing with the fighters, because I've seen it from the outside for so long, but
that would be a super awesome thing to do for them, because
45 minutes to an hour and a half seminar
came out yesterday when I was like, I can't remember who did what, but it's like the third or fourth. Someone just did something post fight, and I was like, that's what they need.
It was Tim jumping on the cage.
Yeah, Timmy Mason. That's right. And I was like, they need just, and obviously someone wants to celebrate, but it's like Amari walking out during the season's beatings, throwing out the presents. It's like little stuff like that to, it's not like you want to be like wrestling, but you also kind of need to have that heel hero persona. You need to build up your fan base one or another. And anymore with social media and how everything is, I feel like just being good at that isn't enough. Yeah. You know what I mean? And once again, like kind of Sean and those guys, I feel like realize, I mean, they're funny. Yep. You know what I mean? So you have to almost have a shtick along with being... And I may be wrong with that, but I feel like that's,
one complements the other.
It's so one of our first fighters of the night, Tannen Bauman. He when he came out, independent fighter, first fight, but the energy that he came out with when he at the face-offs, when he walked up onto the stage, or when he entered the cage, or just. Or how they are when they do their face-off and different things like that. It's just that kid had great energy. It's like, I'm kind of excited to watch him fight.
Yeah. And
he came out and put on a really, really great fight. So
just wish his opponent... I mean, I'm not the one getting hit in the face, so it's easy for me to sit here and say, I wish he would have done something more and not quit like that, because he had his back. He was doing good. He just got reversed, and his heart kind of came out of it. Or maybe he got injured. I'm not sure, but that was looking to be a really good fight. I wanted about 2 more rounds of that.
That was a great night of fights. I mean, honestly, technically speaking, it was one of our best fight cards, and just the level of the fighters on that card. Sometimes that makes for more of a technical fight. For example, Nate Lau and Cody Porter. That fight, there was a lot of grappling in that fight. They were both working really hard for the takedown. Right. Yeah, we definitely wanted to see more striking out of those guys, because who doesn't want to see striking? But the grappling that was taking place between those guys was so high level, and then
you could kind of watch it as they went through the rounds, and by round 4, Cody's the one that won, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. Cody was kind of, he figured out how to pass his guard. I looked at Jake. I said, he got to mount right at the end. I said, he's going to get to that position midway through that next round, and he was there within a minute and a half, and then he finished him.
Yeah,
so but he figured it out.
I was talking to Drew and I think Paris, we were talking about this on Friday. It's sometimes, it feels like fans kind of get a little antsy if it's a fight like that, where it's a lot more wrestling, maybe not as much striking. Do you think with these new kind of like fight leagues, like BKFC, slap fighting and stuff like that,
karate combat,
is it creating a want and a need for more KO type fighting? I think
it's stuff always like that been distracting? There. Even before BKFC, everybody likes the stand-up wars. They can relate to it more. They can understand it, because I mean, it's not hard to tell when somebody's punching somebody in the face. But when you don't understand jiu-jitsu, and you don't necessarily understand that just because a guy's on the bottom doesn't mean that he's not winning. That it's all that positional awareness. That you got somebody in your guard, that you're the one that's threatening.
Yeah. We're in a neutral
just
position.
People don't understand all of that. And as they start to learn that more, I think it gets funner and funner. Yeah. So that's one thing as a promotion that I think we could do too, is do things more educationally to help the fans understand. Mm-hmm. But that's like when you go to Japan and you watch MMA fights in Japan, the crowd is very quiet
until they do something,
and then when something happens, and then but they're watching it because they know the average fan there really understands the whole game.
Is that kind of where catch weight? Were we talking about that with
like catch wrestling?
Yeah, catch wrestling and stuff like that. That's kind of, is that where that originated over there?
Just because like traditional martial arts is such like core to Japanese experience, you know, like they grew up with all this, so they already kind of know what's going on. They're just more educated, like you said, and it's like a respect thing. So the quietness isn't, but an American fans,
Like you're intently watching.
yeah, and then so when someone does a guard pass and it's a beautiful guard pass, you'll hear them applaud. Yeah, right. It's
like
a
golf clap. It's like,
no,
we approve.
and then as opposed to being in like Brazil where they're like playing music and drums, and which is a whole nother thing. I think every sparring session should have live music
Like
there.
war drums.
For real, because they go to, one time we were sparring and they had a powwow on the other side of the building, and they were playing the drums and singing near sparring, and you didn't realize it. You pick up pace. You start, your rhythm goes to the music, and then we speed up, and it goes up to like 80% in the sparring, and then the music stops, and then all of a sudden your energy drops. You're like,
Well, existence is vibrational. It's insane what we find out through that. But so we are kind of getting a little bit closer to the end. So I wanted to ask you about a couple things. Levi and I had a really interesting talk up in Havre. Sounds like you guys have some big things coming in the future. You have a fusion building, he told me.
Yeah, we picked up an office space that's kind of our headquarters because we got tired of meeting in coffee shops to get our team together and go through different things like that. So we needed a place where we could get together. We've been working on getting our own podcast up and running, an MMA or combat sports talk show, and we're just about ready to kick it off.
so have you guys thought about maybe like you're gonna make that like your own little Apex?
Yeah, we've got it. Yeah, well, it's too bad we can't put fights on there, but it's.
I mean, that would be cool if you could put a fight on there. If you could get some of these.
Well, we did some so we have our sub promotion Throwdown Challenger Series, and everybody calls it Contender. It's Throwdown. It's like ours is Throwdown. Throwdown Challenger Series. We put on a few shows. It's smaller venues, so we were able to do it. So it's at the DoubleTree Hotel is where our office space is. It's on the 18th floor of the DoubleTree. Nice. But yeah, we in the ballroom down there, we did put on we did 3 different throwdowns down there. But yeah, we've got an area that we're building our podcast studio, and it's just going to be kind of our home for doing that.
That would be pretty cool if you could get the throwdown guys on there. And so now they're just in this little room just like that for contenders. And now that can get you on our main card. If you win this one,
fighting in a phone booth.
Yeah.
And honestly, sometimes that's a good experience too. You got 8 people. You can hear what everybody says. You can hear you can hear what the judges are whispering.
You can hear a fart.
and if you think that doesn't affect the fighter like that, you're wrong, because if you hear a judge say you're losing, did you see what he just did? Now you feel pressured as the losing fighter in that situation.
Well, like I was talking with Levi, I think it would just be really fun to just pop in down there and do some stuff with you guys every once in a while.
Absolutely. So what we want to do is with this show, we're gonna be really utilizing it to help fans get to know the fighters. We want to showcase the fighters, bring the fighters in, interview them, talk to them, and just ways that we can showcase a lot of different stuff. But I will tell you one thing about the podcast that is, it's going to be, we're going to pull back the veil. We're going to talk about the controversial stuff, and it's Fusion Fight League is a family-friendly show. The podcast will probably not be. It's awesome. We're gonna take the gloves off, and we're gonna say it the way it really is. And it's.
I had all thought of the dark side of MMA, because there's a lot of dark side to it. There's a lot of guys,
a lot of background stuff.
When people say, "Well, what really happened with that fighter? Why did that guy really?" No, we'll call it out. It's what happened is what happened, and we're gonna let it fly. So. Yeah,
it'd be good to develop.
We're probably going to upset a few people with it, but it's life.
It's a good venue to develop your stars. Like we were just talking about, you need drawing power for these things, especially since, for Great Falls area, you'd have Leo in here, and Leo would sell out that 4 Seasons every time, and you wouldn't have an ovation. I haven't heard an ovation like that. Tommy was the closest I've heard since Leo's prime.
Yep.
And so now you have to develop another star. Now Tommy's, and that's kind of like your position in the fight game, because you're one of the top promotions in the Pacific Northwest. We can say that hands down, one of the top.
Definitely trying to be. That's our job is to be a feeder show. We want to be the number 1 feeder show in the Northwest for whether it's Bellator or LFA or the UFC, Invicta. that's something that's what we want to do. We want to help fighters get to the next level, and that's why we provide them with the best stage that we can. And we could save money and not do all the video production and not do all the big screens and everything like that, but we really want them to get the feel of
it. Looks good that way.
It looks really good. The production value of that is great.
Even in Havre, that setup with the screen and stuff. I mean, it's not like it was a huge venue; those people could obviously see, but it just adds to the experience. You can see a little bit closer. You can actually see what's going on maybe on the other side. Your back might be to the hold that this dude has. So I appreciate it. The production value is great. I've been blessed a little bit to help Paris. And
whoa.
You're fired.
Clean up on aisle 3.
Yeah. So honestly, it's fun. And I just appreciate that you guys are bringing a fun form of entertainment to people. And then you always do the fight for a cause, which I think is so awesome. Well, that was the thing I wanted to have you explain a little bit. This what really goes in. And you barely even scratched the surface. That's why it'd be fun to get like you and Levi and Bryce in here and talk about the more technical end of it. Because the 50-50, the fight for a cause, the fighters dropping out a day before the fight.
We started off with 9 local fighters, and we lost 7 of them. We only had 2 local fighters on the card last night between injuries and then COVID running through a gym. What do you do with that?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that really hurts ticket sales because your local draws aren't on the card, and that hurts ticket sales. But the show goes on. You push forward, and
I saw that in Missoula.
Ryan Hall and Richie, they did such a great job of putting that card back together again, because a lot of those fighters we lost the week of.
Richie, is that your boy from Vegas?
Yeah. Yep. Richie DiPaolo. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. So they work real well, and that's coming along, and we just want to keep that going, and that's part of what we want to do is that, okay, you've got a hometown fighter that you love watching fight, but also at the same time, when we're bringing in guys like when we're bringing in guys from Red Hawk and we're bringing guys from,
Couture. I saw that. Like I said, we're talking about Tim Curry's fight. He fought a guy from Extreme Couture and beat him.
Yep.
So, that's a high level gym. So I'm like,
but the thing that I really want to focus on is I want to do a better job of letting the fans know why a fight is interesting, where these guys come from, so that they're not a hometown fighter, but they're getting treated to. Yesterday's show was called Rising Stars, and there were definitely a lot of rising stars. There are people that you will see go to the next level. There were easily 4 people on that card that we'll definitely see in the UFC.
Those Red Hawk boys for sure.
When I think with the exposure that with your podcast, being able to cover stuff, and like I talked with Levi, and maybe in the future we can work together a little bit. But I have offers, to go to gyms out of state. That's kind of what we want to do, is go to these local gyms, train with these fighters, put shine on the gym.
A little spotlight on guys, and who's the next guy that's going to be big. This is a guy that you might not know him yet, but you will.
Right. So it's not like I want to go out there and just get straight manhandled by these badasses, but also I think it would be fun. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who want to see me punched in the face. I'm not gonna lie, but I think it would be fun for me. I had a little bit of wrestling experience when I was younger, but it would be fun to show just the general dude, and then maybe because Drew has a fighter's background, we just break down basically simple stuff and then watch the evolution of
how to escape mount.
Yeah,
I just like
Yeah,
and that's the thing that I notice on these fights is like how to escape mount. Here's just like a 4-minute video. Here's 3 escapes that you can do. Practice these with your homies in your garage, and you'll be a lot better.
Yeah, just kind of like a tidbit or two of hey, this is what I learned.
Here's a hip escape.
Yeah.
Here's an oompa.
Yeah.
There you go. That's what you need. If you can't do one, do the other.
Yep.
Like we were talking about, like maybe like not necessarily like an embedded thing, but like I said, I've had a few offers from quite a few fighters locally, and so is Drew. And then out of state, I have a few, and it would just be fun to go, just get in there. And like I did that when we went to Missoula. I kind of did the Hell Day with Jesse Henderson, and we hiked the M. We went and did Muay Thai, and then we did boxing, and then we went to the gym, and then we did some other stuff. We did about 6.5 hours total that day. Yeah. So I think it would be fun to do. Okay, so I did that day. Yeah, that's one day. But what's day 2? What's day 3 looking like?
How do you feel on day 4?
Yeah. So I feel like that would be fun to expose to the general fan.
Yeah.
Like,
and we're pointing out things that we want fighters to work on and do. They're doing their best. And you you have to give credit to any fighter
Oh, yeah.
who is brave enough to step in that cage, because that's less than 1% of the population that ever fights a combat sport like that. And I can definitely tell you it's one of the biggest rushes that I ever experienced. That cage door closes and you definitely know you are
Nothing
alive.
else matters at that moment.
I've done some kind of exciting stuff being a cop, and that's the only fighting is it's been that was just an experience, such an adrenaline rush. I've never felt an adrenaline rush like I did being locked in a cage.
It's therapeutic, really, because it's the ultimate form of escapism. If I think about anything else right now, I have direct negative repercussions. This guy's going to freaking knock my head off. If I think about my girlfriend or anything, I can only worry about right now.
Oh, so I've only fought MMA 2 times, and I can tell you the anxiety, the pre-fight anxiety that I experienced building up to the fight was unreal. I was having a hard time making weight because I was stressed so much.
Oh, you couldn't get
about
up
it.
or what?
I was just
That's kind of a personal question.
At this age,
it just was this.
That's a
the
different
stress.
podcast.
It
No,
just,
it's also my blue chew.
I was wearing my skin out from the inside. It just was like, but it's pressure, especially like at that time when I had my first MMA fight. I was running my gym, so and it was when Fight Force was in Billings. I fought for Brian Dietz, and it's stressful because your reputation is on the line.
Yeah.
So you go in there and you lose an MMA fight. It's like, well, what does this guy have to teach? I mean, obviously, he's
especially
not very
if
good.
it's like embarrassing loss, like you get knocked out in 33 seconds. The guy just takes your back like right away. Like, you can't do that.
Libby she was not super excited when I said that I started training at Flow State a little bit just to kind of, I think it's useful. Just if anything, like I told her, I'm learning how to defend you. I don't drink anymore. So it's not like we go out very often, but it's like if we're ever outside in a scenario, at least maybe I can, for one, I'm really good at decompressing a situation. But it's like when stuff pops off, it would be nice to know a couple just simple
every fan should go and at least put in a class or two. Just experience it. Not go in and get beat on or anything like that.
Some of them.
You can have a friend like Drew who doesn't tell you that he's switching what he's doing. He's gone to like 3 classes with me, and I think I've been head kicked in the dome each time he's been in.
Well, I'm just teaching you.
He's a good friend.
Look, I'm just teaching you to always protect yourself. And I wanted to see if I could kick a grown man in the head again after inactivity and injury.
And like
I can.
And with Ryan Ibsen too, it's like I had never I just got in street fights and stuff like that, but I feel like a psycho. I was telling him and Ryan Ibsen, I was like, it's kind of scary. Like when you get punched again, I feel like it's a fight or flight thing. And I was always just a fight mentality. So it's like when I got Ryan, I did a little bit of stuff with him, and
there's a guy you got to get in here for a podcast.
Oh,
Ryan is so much fun to talk to. He is such a good guy, and he's funny and he's got insight. But he'd be a great one.
Yeah,
for your podcast.
he's the bomb.
He's got a lot of personality.
Luckily, we all know a few people that we were laughing. I think I had about 40 people tell me that we need to get him on the show. We love you guys. We love the support. We will eventually, once we get our legs going, we'll get you on here. All right.
We have to consult. It's a team decision. So let me consult my team.
So if you ever aren't on the show, just know Paris didn't want you on here.
Yeah, we haven't really heard much from Paris over here.
Yeah, what are you doing over there?
How was your night over
there? I should be looking over to you. If you have something to say, we need a little light behind you that you can
let's have a little light behind me. So I'm just concentrating for the first episode on just like switching and making sure everything looks good.
Okay.
But great night of fights last night, Terrill. Very technical. One thing that I thought was really cool was watching O'Neal and just like his jujitsu, Shea O'Neal, and just watching how like best word I can say is how clean it was and how effortless all the transitions and everything were that I thought was just so cool. You could tell it's high level.
And to look that good and to do that well against such another high level grappler, because Derry is a monster. I mean, he's pulled off 2 buggy chokes in our shows. He is. I would have said that leading up to that fight that Derry was probably one of the best one of the best grapplers that had been in our cage. And I wasn't really sure. I wasn't. Obviously, everybody knows that Shea's a good grappler, But I was really interested to see how Derry was going to approach that fight and what he was going to do, if he was going to try and keep him standing, and thinking that maybe that Shea wasn't as good of a striker, but Shea actually is a good striker. He's got great hands too.
Oh yeah.
So I was really that fight I was so stoked for. That was one of the best fights we put on. That was just a great matchup.
Well, and like we had talked earlier, was more of a technical thing. We actually lucked out. I mean, once I've told you a million times already, but just thank you so much for giving us the access that you've allowed us to have. We're just a couple of dudes, and hopefully we do you a little bit of justice. But we were blessed last night. I feel like most of those fights kind of ended up in front of us right there in those chairs. So we had a really good view all night of the fights. I mean, even the JoJo stuff. I mean, obviously it ended up on one side of the cage for a minute, but you literally, like you said, you could literally feel those punches. So I just want to extend my deepest gratitude towards you, Levi, Bryce, anyone at Fusion, Jim, all those guys. And it's super fun to be able to be there, and I hope that we can help produce some stuff. And I just love what you do. Like I said, the Fight for a Cause thing alone just makes me want to double down on working to get people in there just so we can help those people in the community. But I love the entertainment that, everyone always complains that there isn't much to do, but then, this stuff comes to town, and I just appreciate the entertainment value. I've been to a couple of fights that were a little janky, not yours, but the production value and everything along with it it's top tier.
Yeah, everything's suspicious at those other shows. So I said, I really like having that commission is probably, even though they chase me around and hassle me sometimes when I'm at the show, I appreciate that because I could be a guy that's giving an illegal substance to someone. Could on the positive, I could be poisoning someone's water right now, so now they have diarrhea before their fight.
Well, that
can happen right away. That happens.
Yes, that locker room area now. That's one thing that's changed for us. Is that's a sterile area. There is only fighters corners and coaches that are supposed to be back there. Yeah. No energy drinks back there, anything like that. They keep that very on the level, and that way fighters can focus on their job, and it makes it harder to cheat. You got somebody that's back there keeping an eye on what's going on.
And they're checking the blood work, because I know for a fact I fought guys on steroids, and it's just to protect your fighters. That is one of the best things I've noticed that's changed, along with the production value from when I stopped competing to now, is just that oversight, being able to know that you have a fair fight.
Yeah, well, and like I said, it's great. We are getting about to an hour and over an hour and 10, so I know that you guys want to get on the road here soon. Once again, thank you so much, Terrill, for allowing us the access. Thank you for coming in. I know you're probably fried post show.
I'm not gonna lie, I am tired. So we came off of back-to-back shows. It's rare that we don't usually. Sometimes we'll have 2 shows in a month, but every once in a great while, just the way. Because they're the only dates that we had available to pick from. We just had Billings last Friday, and then turn right around and have this show. So a week apart, 2 shows a week apart. It's demanding.
And then it takes from all those really Billings fighters that you have set. You don't have any Billing fighters to backfill this Great Falls card, because now they've all coming off that fight camp. They want a beer and a burger now. They don't want to cut weight.
It would be fun. I don't want to overspeak for ourselves yet, but we are working. We might be down in Billings for BKFC. Maybe we could pop in, do an episode with you guys.
I'm so excited that they're coming back. I really enjoy working with them, and it's Fusion Fight League's built a really great relationship with them, and
that would have been a great topic point too. Is how you commingle with some of these other events.
Yeah, these other.
Got to have you back on, obviously. Anyways,
I'd love to talk about how BKFC came about. And, I actually got to travel. I traveled over their headquarters and met them in Philadelphia.
That's awesome.
And traveled around with them. Went
Feldman's
to
a G.
Events. I've learned a lot from BKFC. That they have really, really influenced our show, and so I really enjoy working with them.
Well, what I was telling you is our whole goal is to get to some of these gyms, actually get ourselves in there and train with these people. So it would be actually really cool to go down to Billings and train with you a little bit. I seen show us a couple of moves. I mean, especially we were talking about wanting to show the everyday fan, hey, this is kind of more
Well, that would be a segment that I want to do on our podcast.
Yeah.
We'll pre-record it and then we'll put it out there, but it'll be demonstrating,
of course.
Okay, guys, this is fans, so you understand this is what's really happening here. Or, maybe even a tip, like one of the things I want to do is I want to talk to fighters about triangles and how to finish triangles effectively and how to escape triangles. For some reason, that is the buzz thing that I keep picking up on is people, is the triangle game that's been going on in MMA lately. And it's just a couple of minor adjustments. If fighters would just do a couple of minor things, they would finish those triangles so much faster.
That would
cut your angle.
It would be cool if we could almost, not maybe a seminar, because I feel like that's when people have to pay for it, but if we could get a couple of the younger fighters, like Billings and Great Falls, maybe Dave Evans, whoever, it doesn't have to be Dave, but a couple coaches that you trust, you know what I mean? And get them in there, and then we could, almost break up in groups and cover different things. Or, we can workshop that later on, but I think that could be really beneficial for Fusion and for the fighters that are coming up. And
I'd be more than happy to do it. I'd love to coordinate something like that and get some different coaches teaching some different topics and do it like a big, it'd be cool to do it like a 2-day event or 3-day event. Yeah. I would do that for free for sure. And I know a lot of coaches would probably donate their time. The biggest thing is the people that want to come and do it have to come and pay for their hotel room and cover their own travel and things like that.
Deal.
Well, and this, I know times are tough, but this is when you have an opportunity like that, it's like, how bad do you really want this now at this point? You have some top tier people willing to help you and show you some stuff. Do you want to take that or not? And I'm not saying just because they don't always take it, that doesn't mean they don't want it. Yeah. But I think that would be a great opportunity. I think that'd be fun. And obviously, I was trying to say we're going to wrap it up, and then I bring some stuff up like that. But we can talk later.
So many fun things to talk about. I'm happy to come back anytime you guys ever want me. I just really appreciate getting to be the first one out the gate.
Yeah.
Oh man. And I just. It's unfortunate that you guys just don't have better people to pick from.
Yeah.
Well, don't you guys know that you're judged by the company you keep? You guys are in a lot of trouble now.
That's all right. I can't hang out.
Why did they have that guy?
I can't hang out with too good at people, or else it'll make my public appearance look too good. I got to keep it, a little bit lower.
It's fun for me though, and I like to be able to talk. Beating people is the great thing about this business. But the funny thing for me is a lot of times it's like, hey, you're the announcer for the fights. Yep, yes I am. Which is inside secret. I will tell you this: I hate that job. I do not like being the announcer for the fights. I'm very self-conscious. I do not like being, I see myself on camera or I hear my voice after an event, and I just, it's like nails on a chalkboard to me. And I just don't like being in that big of a spotlight. I want to
handle it well
off to the side. Yeah. I fake it.
You do really well.
I'm telling you, I completely fake it. But there's so many people that just think that I'm just the announcer. Oh, you're the announcer. Yep. It's like they have no idea that
Well, I'm a little bit more than that. I don't want to, toot my horn, but boop, boop. Well, we
kind of a big deal.
We threw an idea out to Levi, and hopefully we can coordinate, make it happen. But we were talking about doing an ugly Christmas party podcast because we have this fun little area to hang out here. I think it would be fun if you guys showed up a day before season, because season meetings I assume will be taking place here.
So we have a date, December 7th.
Mark your calendars.
It's it's a little bit tentative right now.
Yeah.
I got to make sure that sponsors are still on board to help us make that happen, and that we can put together a good solid fight card. If we do that show on December 7th, that will be our season finale. Okay, and we'll put a lot of ducks into that one because we're losing our season's beatings likely in Billings because BKFC coming.
Oh yeah,
can't do those two shows so close together. So that was one thing I had to sacrifice to get them to come over.
Thank you. For being willing to.
How do you? We have fighters that are relying on those opportunities, and when you've got guys like Kai and Bryant and people like that, it's like they deserve that. So it's a pleasure to make those things happen, and we'll make it up. Maybe we'll move our show to January or something like that for Billings. But so December 7th would be our season finale, and I will.
You hear that, Great Falls? He just sacrificed his Billings show so we can get BKFC here to watch King Kai fight again. If they do this show in Great Falls, you guys better show out and show some support for that, because that's huge, man. Sacrifice it, because Billings is your turf. That's your guys' turf.
It's our bread and butter.
Yeah.
Honestly,
And
the billing show is our bread and butter, and our season's beating show is always our biggest of the year.
Yeah.
But
Helps you stay in the
sometimes you have to look at the bigger picture,
Right.
and it's not always about us. You know, and another thing that I have to say too before I get off is Fusion Fight League is not me. I am a very, very small part of Fusion Fight League. It's a team.
Yeah.
You know, we have so many great guys, Ryan and Richie and Bryce and Chad Korb, who does our graphic design.
Is he this kind of shorter dude?
Yeah, he's also our DJ at the fights.
Okay,
and he's a comedian too, by the way.
That's why.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he is so funny. At Levi, you know, Levi
All those
puts,
guys.
Levi puts so much blood, sweat, and tears into this. I don't want to forget anybody. There's a team of people that work their brains out to make this happen.
Yeah.
And we can't. Paris, you know, Paris has been doing videos for us. And that's one of the main things we brought Paris on board to help start to be able to tell the story of who the fighters are.
Oh, he does such a good job too.
He's got a crazy eye for that.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
Like
Very
watching him do
talented.
the pre-fight interviews, like because we went with him. Yeah, the day before.
So we're just
and
going to keep developing that and
so-
growing and expanding. But yeah, definitely want to give a shout out to my team. And not only are they hard workers, but just such a great group of guys.
So Chad was killing us last
Oh
week.
my
The
God.
intermission, we went outside to have a cigarette. We were sitting there with Bryce and Kai. And
He had a
people,
cigarette.
And he goes, oh yeah. He's like, you look like Travis Kelce. And I was like, what? And he's like, you look like the regular Joe Blow version of Travis. I was like, yeah, I'm the Carpenter version of him. And then I don't want to say too much about what that spiraled into, but we had a good conversation. I go, you know what? I was like, you almost look like Jim or Chad Kroger's illegitimate Jim that works with you
Yeah,
guys.
yeah, yeah.
He looks like Jim's illegitimate child a little bit in the face, other than the spiky hair.
Yeah.
Like-
So yeah, Jim's been involved with Fusion off and on for a long time. He's also done some commentating. He does some
Funny dude.
consulting
Yeah.
for us. But so Jim and Chad are both comedians, and they're nomad comedians, and they go on tour, and they are a riot. So
I want to admit, I want those guys in here because Chad was killing my side. And then when I did the commentating with Jim, I had a chance to talk to him. I had a great time in Haver. Thank you for that opportunity too. But
Absolutely.
those guys are freaking hilarious. and that's,
You bring those guys in though. That's going to be the unfiltered version. You guys,
Yeah.
you're going to be hitting the beat button. So
yeah,
it's like,
We're gonna have to put MA on it before.
they're
Right.
hilarious, dude. And every time I get to, I had a really good just conversation with Bryce, Levi, and those guys up in Haver, and just awesome dudes. It's fun to be able just to even, like I said, just on a small level, be able to work with you guys. You've obviously given me a couple opportunities doing the camera and then with the commentating, and I can't thank you enough. I can't thank you enough for your time.
well, when you
here.
stepped up and did camera for us, you were helping us out. You saved our bacon there, and you did a great job.
I was so nervous, dude. I'm like sitting there. One, like, because that was when Tim, that one dude, I can't remember if he's Filipino or what he is, but he's got the slick back, and he was just jumping so hard on the shot, and I was kind of shaking. Levi's like, "You need to hold it," and I just wanted to do such a good job
Hold it
for you
still.
guys. Yeah, and the
Yeah,
stuff you hear in your ears, and I was nervous, but I just appreciate you guys giving me the
Well,
opportunity.
yeah, absolutely.
So it
Thank
was a
you
lot of
guys
fun.
for being a part of it. I mean, you help us get our brand awareness out there, and that's just a great part of it.
Yeah.
So
But we love what you guys do, and we're gonna work hard to try and help spread that
Yeah,
awareness. So.
like I said, especially because you're doing good at every show. That for a cause. We didn't really have time to touch on that too much, but
that's really one of
Definitely
the driving
helps us.
forces of why we do Fusion Fight League. That is one of the most important things to me is our fight for a cause benefit.
it makes a real difference.
Yep, that and the fighter prayer at the beginning of the just a chance to do that with the crowd. Those are two of my driving forces for doing Fusion, other than the fighters.
All right, and I think on that one thing, I do eventually want a chance to do the ring girl thing, and I want to sing the national anthem. So that doesn't have to happen right now.
You
but-
got to wear a bikini.
Yeah, we need to wrap this up. We got a couple of things to do. Terrill, thank you so much for your
Absolutely.
time. This is Drew, Paris, and Jake with Through the Ropes, first episode. We'll see you guys soon. Thanks again, man.
Just one more quick thing before we end. Terrill, do you want to throw out any dates that you have coming up or any socials that you want people to follow?
Let's see. We've got so we're going to the Adams Center in Missoula, October 26th. October 26th. Then that's going to be our next fight coming up. We've got some Throwdown Challenger Series we're working on right now. We're working on on that. It's going to have some dates being dropped soon. And then, BKFC, November 9th at Billings Metro Park. That's going to be a great one. Social media, our Facebook page, our Instagram at Fusion Fight League. Please follow us there. There is a few fake Facebook pages out there, spoof ones. So ours is the easy one to find. It's got 13,000 followers, which I think is amazing to me. So if it's only got like 200 or 300, people or 50 people, that's not
report it. Help them out and report that. So, all right. Yeah. And anything else real quick before you want to go, man?
No, I appreciate the opportunity. I feel very blessed to get the opportunity to do what I do, to meet the people that I meet, and it's just a great experience, and I love it. I love the people, and I feel like the luckiest guy in the world, and I appreciate everybody who supports us, all the fans, all the sponsors, all you guys. I appreciate everything that you guys do to support. So thanks.
This is a good conversation. I'm excited for episode 1 here. I could talk to you for hours about so much of this stuff.
And then Paris, did you want to plug? You're our official sponsor, you know that.
The first sponsor is Fresh Red Productions for all your video, personal and commercial, also photo needs. Just follow at Fresh Red Productions on Instagram. You can message me through there. You want some cool video? Let me know. Cool.